On the planet below, an ancient monolith awakens, releasing an energy pulse that tore apart our research vessel. Several of the crew were mutated through the horrific process. Only a few managed to escape, drop-podding onto the Rimworld beneath. But their mission is far from over. 4 colonists, one permanently transfigured into a mindless ghoul, arrive right beside the cursed monolith, researching its esoteric nature in hopes of one day shutting it down. Or will they gaze deep in the void hidden inside the monolith and fall to its siren's call, harnessing its inhuman power? This is the entire Rimworld Anomaly experience. Anomaly is Rimworld's horror DLC, dropping a monolith we can interact with to call horrors upon our colonists. Through this video, we'll see every anomaly the game has to offer, and finish the monolith's entire questline. Besides new monsters, Anomaly offers new strange events, weird items, and an entire separate research tree, completed by discovering and researching these anomalies. But that's in the future. For now, we start as many other stories before, securing shelter and food. Single room is built up into the cliffside with beds, dressers, and bedside tables, along with plenty of space to store what goods we managed to secure from our ship. Additionally, near the monolith and some steam geysers, we'll set up the basics of food production. We also dropped with a proximity detector, a device able of detecting and alerting us to invisible creatures, assuming it has power. As our colonists rest for the first night, we can take a look at who they are. Newton will be our lead researcher in things both scientific and anomaly, who's tough and great at crafting. Erilyn is a kind warrior who will be handling our plants and animals, while Alistair is a builder who's brave but a little slow on his feet. Schultz, our last colonist, was warped by the monolith, becoming a powerful, twisted creature known as a ghoul. Ghouls are incapable of higher thought, but highly proficient in melee, which works extremely well with her genetic background of a hussar, making Schultz a MVP who will be solving a lot of the colony's early combat problems. Ghouls can't hold weapons or tools, they can't work, and when not drafted, she'll just wander around looking for meat to eat. Ghouls are unnaturally good at healing, so long as we can keep them fed with meat and corpses. However, if they ever run out, they may turn to us for their next meal. The next morning, we begin to get the basics of production up, including stone cutting, tailoring, and researching. Additionally, we'll set up a secondary building to handle most of our food issues, including a butchery table and a nutrient paste dispenser for easy meals, considering the colony did not drop with any good cooks, and the negative mood from nutrient paste is much better than the constant debuffs of food poisoning. The nutrient paste will feed into a small dining room for now that will double as a rec room in the future. The Rimworld is a dangerous place, so we'll want to put our first resource towards smithing, eventually so that we can make our own guns and armor to protect ourselves from the horrors. In between sending Schultz out to kill the local wildlife to keep her fed, we begin the basics of setting up power, plopping down a windmill, and running some conduits beneath the ground to reach both our nutrient paste and proximity detector, as well as some basic lighting, so we don't need to rely on keeping torches resupplied. After only 2 days on the Rimworld surface, the monolith has noticed us. A wave of dread passes over our colonist as the fallen monolith begins to stir. It slowly begins to twist and rearrange itself, morphing into something new. In a matter of days, it will be complete. When the option comes up to name our new home, we call our faction after the company that sent us here to research the monolith, and name our settlement after the star sector we were assigned to. To get any consistent use out of windmills, we'll need a few batteries to keep some energy around when the wind dies down. The area we dropped in creates a nice natural border, so we secure some of our natural choke points with some of the slate bricks that we've begun to craft. Doing so along our north and western edges leaves only a small entrance to our east open and a larger southern entrance. As we are beginning to lay down our outer perimeter, a Neanderthal named Black Goat from the Covenant of Fools comes to raid our colony. I'm not sure why you would call yourself the Covenant of Fools, but considering how prepared Black Goat came, it seems a rather fitting name. Neanderthals make good melee pawns, and he has quite the passion for it, so we'll try and capture him if we can. The dream of capturing him is short-lived, however, considering Schultz bites his head off before he can even hit the ground. Oh well. Any food for Schultz at this point is a good enough gift. Speaking of keeping Schultz fed, we begin the process of building fences so that we can start ranching animals. Hopefully, setting up a self-sustaining meat source for Schultz so we don't have to send them constantly running out into the open to kill wildlife. At the same time, we'll start growing a few patches of cotton so that our colonists have a consistent source of clothes and furniture. With cotton on the way, it's time to set up clothing. We make sure to always have a good and healthy cowboy hat, duster, pants, shirt, and backpack on standby. That will always keep some supply on hand, so people can change into it if their clothes get tattered, or new people joining can take them as well, and will give us good resistance to the weather outdoors. With the basics mostly handled, the monolith is getting restless. We'll send Newton out so we can meet it on our own terms. The monolith's dark, metallic surface is warm to the touch, and Newton thinks he can hear a faint hum emanating from inside. The lines of its dusty surface seem to squirm in unsettling patterns, as Newton forces on the shapes, trying to uncover their meaning. The hum strengthens, the shapes begin to flow in Newton's vision, but the surface isn't changing. Power begins to uncoil in the empty space all around. A black shape is forming in his mind. The anomaly is stirring, but we must keep focusing. The monolith is twisted, changing and growing in shape. Newton was overcome with a horrifying vision. In an instant, he understood. The monolith is a doorway, just barely cracked open now. Something dark beyond imagination stirs on the other side, seeping into our reality. Terrified but excited, Newton is convinced he can learn more if given time to study. Interacting with the monolith has allowed entities to begin attacking us, as well as opening up the research dedicated to anomalies. We'll begin by researching entity containment. Detaining and studying entities is how you gain research faster in Anomaly, so the more horrors that we can capture and study, the quicker we'll be able to make it through this new tree. With the fence perimeter of our farm being constructed, shortly after the monolith's investigation, a gray pall sets across the land, giving a horrid stench and lowering the mood of everyone here. We can begin to start taming the local boomalopes and muffalos. It doesn't take long for one of our taming attempts to turn a boomalope into a manhunter. Luckily, a shotgun solves most flesh-shaped problems. Coincidentally, at the same time, a harbinger tree appears nearby. They're able to eat corpses around them, and in turn, grow more trees in their area. However, this tree is out of the safety of our perimeter, and we already have Schultz to deal with corpses, so we'll ignore it for now. On the other side of the map of a Harbinger tree comes a cargo pod filled with 20 energy drinks. We'll set aside the prime energy for now, in hopes to sell it for a higher price to some Victorian child later. The same night, a royalty quest is offered to us. A knight being ambushed by a single man-hunting raccoon offers to give us psionic training in exchange for dealing with the manhunter, and it's too good of a deal to pass up. Because Erilyn is our hired muscle of this operation, we'll give it to her. Schultz comes out to protect Sabas the knight from the man-hunting raccoon. After sending Sabas on his way, safe and sound, we can call in royalty to bestow Erilyn with psi-casting potential. One terrible bestowing ceremony later, and Erilyn is now a level 3 psi-caster. We allow her to meditate at void structures like the monolith, and turn her into a cryomancer, able to deal with large amounts of enemies in raid, especially fleshy targets. While designing our first containment center, a sight stealer has revealed itself and ambushed Schultz. Luckily, Schultz is 20 melee, a ghoul, and a hussar, so it's pretty deftly outmatched, and like the raid before, has its head bitten off. Ideally, we'd like to capture these anomalies so we can start studying them, but Schultz seems to have a propensity for taking off heads, and that's a good skill to keep around, so I can't complain too much. Dealing with the sight stealer opens up the proximity alert research, which allows us to make more of the ones we have in our current base. We'll be able to detect nearby invisible creatures, whatever direction they come from. Certainly won't be the last of them. Next, we'll lay out the plans for our first containment room. We build it into the natural mountain wall because the natural stone is much tougher, therefore making it harder for the anomalies to escape. Along with stone walls and stone doors, it'll be important our containment rooms have plenty of light to keep containment high. While we're running power down, we'll begin installing the first holding platform. Morning after, a heat wave sets in, and it's not long before it reaches 120 degrees Fahrenheit outside, meaning that we'll need to build some AC to keep our colonists safe from the heat stroke. Mood's beginning to get progressively lower, so we begin to make individual bedrooms. I like to build them at the edge of the colony, and designing them around the natural stone makes for some unique shapes and designs. I think it looks nice compared to the usual squares I have a bad habit of only building. Just walls won't be enough for bigger raids, so we'll secure our smaller eastern flank with a simple spike trap hallway. While working on the traps, our first anomaly capture is handed to us on a silver platter. Tony the Ghoul is hostile, but still in shock from the landing, so we capture him for free and can begin studying him for basic anomaly research points, as well as further exploitation later. Our containment room currently has a strength of 90, while the Ghoul's minimum for safe capture is 35, so any breakout attempts should be few and far between. Our new Ghoul lets us pretty quickly finish entity containment, so we can make more holding platforms. So let's work towards bioferrite extraction now, which will let us harvest bioferrite directly from captured entities. Bioferrite is the metallic material needed for building most things tied to Anomaly, so we'll want a lot of this stuff. When anomalies share containment cells, their containment will begin to drop, so we'll build a shard beacon to counteract that. It consumes a shard, a rare, powerful resource dropped by certain anomaly events, but in turn gives 15 containment to everything nearby, which will help prevent breakouts. And Randy decides to reward us with our forward thinking with a little bit of an ambrosia sprout. We'll just set a growing zone and disallow sowing, and that'll allow us to harvest it when it's ready automatically. Newton's had a breakthrough while studying the monolith. He believes the monolith is a conduit for psychic energy, connecting to some distant location. However, he's unsure where or what it connects to. Newton is convinced that by studying more anomalous entities, he can find a way to close the conduit or learn to harness its power. The monolith now gives us more knowledge when we study it. We're raided by a waster from the Venom group named Bones. Schultz easily deals with this, as well as most of the low-level threats that we'll gloss over from here on out, and usually he gets a meal as a reward. Bioferrite done means our colonists can start extracting the material out of our anomalies, but we'll research a bioferrite harvester to have it done automatically. And just look at Newton go. I don't know how this works, but we're extracting that metal out of this ghoul. Gross. We also start our first ideology ritual, a Sky Lantern Festival. These are set up that we can do anytime, and if they're good, there's a chance a new recruit will join the colony for free. This one's beautiful, but I guess no one else is around to appreciate it. If we're gonna have more colonists, we need more bedrooms. And aren't these designs just so weird and fun? I like them. With all the boomalopes starting to produce chem fuel, we'll set up a small stone storage area to keep it, because otherwise, if a fire happens, it'll go boom and we'll lose everything around it. In hindsight, this should have been closer to the power generation, but there's a lot of open space between our buildings, so we'll set up some outdoor lighting. At the time of making this, it's mostly for looks and some extra speed at night, but these will prove to be essential later. We do have the option for becoming a mechanitor, but that's a lot of plates to juggle and not really the focus, so we'll save it for a different day. Now it's time to start establishing our roles in the ideology. Alistair is going to be our moral guide since he's got the best social, while Newton is our lead researcher, so it's thematic that he's our leader. Erilyn's more along as hired muscle. Looking at the rest of our ritual qualities, it's obvious that we're going to need to set up a dedicated room if we want any chance of getting more colonists out of these events. We need to get lucky, but they also need to be good quality. We can help that by building a dedicated ritual room. An ideogram, a lectern, some Neil sheets, and a bit of lighting should get us there. The research is done, so we'll pop down that bioferrite harvester to start automatically extracting that sweet metallic goodness out of this ghoul. Then we're offered a very interesting chance to break out Woog, a prisoner located nearby. We're not well armed, but we are desperate for more colonists to join our research, so we'll give it a try. We'll send Erilyn out on horseback with a shotgun, and Schultz alongside for any melee encounters. Meanwhile, at the home front, we'll establish a choke point on our southern border. Funneling up any raiders will make it easier to deal with them. We arrive at the prison site, and now feels appropriate to mention that Combat Extended is enabled. The CE mod overhauls shooting mechanics, projectiles are simulated, guns use ammo, melee can parry or crit, armor deflects if you don't have appropriate armor penetration, and the balance of limbs is completely redone. There are so many changes, but what it means for us is combat is way deadlier. Pawns are more likely to die or lose limbs if they're not properly protected. On the contrary, proper armor and AP can reliably protect our colonists from all sorts of threats, if we're well prepared. In this case, however, we are in fact underprepared. Those turrets shooting rifle ammo will tear us apart immediately with no armor. So we'll settle for baiting out the warden Ludwig and taking him prisoner. Sorry, Woog. We do try and save him, but Schultz is tore full of holes before we even reach the door. So we'll just heal up and be back on our way home. Back on our way home, we take a stop by the local merchants, and they sell insane weapons, but we don't have the money or ability to make ammo to use them. So we'll just keep this in the back of our mind and be on our way. Once everyone's back home, the Venom group decides to try and take revenge, this time with double the amount of people as last. Unfortunately, their unarmored bodies are no match for the hallway of spike traps and fall to the floor. We do make an attempt to save one of them, but our medic can't get to them in time, and they die in the hallway. Smithing's done, so we're on our way to gunpowder, so we can start making both the guns and ammo for ourselves that we can't afford. And this is when I realize Ludwig's missing a leg from our last confrontation, and it's going to be a while before we can replace that. So let's choose not to think about that. Our cloth is done, which means we can finally finish our ritual room, at least the important parts of the furniture. So let's put it to good use and start one of our social festivals to try and get a new colonist. The speech is quick, and they party a little bit in their dirt-floored room filled with knee pads, and that's enough to convince Karis to join. Karis is an excellent melee pawn and can help Newton with his research, but she's a little bit of a wimp and a nudist. More importantly, she is also a hussar. This means she has a go juice dependency, and if she doesn't have any within 30 days, she's going into a coma, and her mood's going to be getting worse and worse until then. We could try go juice production, but neutramine is not something that we can produce by ourselves, so we'd be reliant on merchants. But there is another option that we learned from Schultz, and that's ghoul infusion. If Karis is a ghoul, she won't be dependent on go juice anymore. After some time improving the base as a whole, we'll do a second ritual. And this one is successful as well. We get Asate to join. Asate is an excellent shooter, good melee, can cook, and is also a nice medic. They're beautiful, cowardly, and are going to avoid any drugs, so they should be easy to work with. We'll begin laying out the foundations of an upgrade to our dining/rec room. A good fused dining rec room will give a massive mood boost to our colonists, so we'll spare no expense and go all out with marble. Ludwig is not fond of the way we've treated him so far, so he tries to break out of his prison cell. Unfortunately, the warden on duty is Schultz, and we know how he deals with the problems. Sorry, Ludwig, you're not missing just a leg, but a head now too. The nearby town is being harassed by 3 man-hunting boom rats, and will offer us a reinforced barrel for making a mortar later in return for their help. So, good luck out there, Schultz. While the rec room's being laid out, we'll begin refurbishing the kitchen as well. We'll put a small refrigerator in the wall, making it easier to relay meals in between the 2 buildings. Power is getting tough with only 1 wind turbine, so we'll make a second and start laying dirt paths around our colony. This will make everyone move faster. It also gives a nice townly feel to the place we're staying, especially with all the buildings so far apart. Karis, who's been helping out with Anamoly study, has completed the study of the monolith. The structure is a conduit that links to the void, a reality hidden under every point in space-time. The void is inhabited by a vast machine intelligence of terrifying complexity that surges with nightmarish inhuman rage. Its influence creates horrors in our world. Awakening the monolith will fully open the conduit. With the channel open, we believe we could reach through the link to permanently close the conduit, or find a way to harness its dark power. Erlin's gained a Psi-Link level and learns Frost Ray, which is the main reason we took this tree. It is incredibly powerful for dealing with large concentrated groups of fragile enemies. Off in the distance, our colonists hear inhuman shrieks far beyond our walls. We're going to move the proximity detector to our main entrance and have Schultz stand guard in anticipation of whatever's to come. Another sight stealer reveals itself, and Schultz, as he always does, finds a way to bite the thing's head off. It would have been nice to have for capture, but we can't complain with results. Now we know how to make more ghouls, so we'll begin studying void provocation so that we can provoke the monolith to send us more anomalies. And it's done, so back to bioferrite shaping. An explosives expert named Davila crashes nearby, so we'll capture her to see if she can be of use to the colony. While the rest of the colony is hosting a Sky Lantern festival, Davila gets an infection from her wounds during the drop. But hey, the festival was a success. A deep space miner named Fluocyte wants to join us. Fluocyte's a dirt mole, basically the Rimworld's dwarves, which means they are exceptional at mining. Now it's time for the first of many provokes of the void. Every time we do this, we're guaranteed to get a new anomaly event, so long as there are enough left. So this will be the way that we'll be easily able to progress in a timely manner. And with the provocation complete, everyone goes back to their work. and wait for what's to come. At the same time, Davila has died of her infection, so there's not much we can do about that now. While setting up some recreation inside our main room, a death pall falls across the land, a gray cloud descending made of self-powered microscopic archites. When they land on dead flesh, they'll reanimate. So any corpses left outside will come back as zombies, which means we have a few options. We can burn, bury, destroy, or move them indoors to stop resurrections from occurring. So we'll use this little cubby we made earlier and set a spot for corpses and get to work. But the death pall acts faster, so we'll have to deal with a few of the zombies. Additionally, we learn how to research dead life dust. We can harness this gray nanite power to resurrect corpses to our benefit, having them target raiders or other enemies who may approach our colony. A few corpses come back to life, but nothing that Schultz can't deal with while the rest of our colony sleeps. Eventually, we managed to get most of the corpses inside the colony, contained into the small room, while a few shamblers wander outside. With all these attacks from the dead and the invisible, it makes sense to start researching disruptor flares. According to the game, they're based on bioferrite and can reveal invisible creatures, light up an area, and stun enemies who get caught in the flare. We also drop down a bioferrite shaper now that the research is done. This will let us craft things in the future using the bioferrite. Since it's not safe outdoors, we'll set up some nice flooring inside our dining room to try and keep that mood boosting higher and higher, as many people are at risk of mentally breaking. A merchant visits us, selling plenty of weapons, but notably a combat shotgun, which we already have ammo for, so we'll take that as a direct upgrade to our pump shotgun. Around midnight, the death pall cleanses, and we can go back to our normal operations. The Empire offers us the opportunity to harbor a guest who will do no work for almost 2 seasons, and in return, we'll get a bionic eye. Because combat extended is so deadly with limbs, it's going to be worth to take this bionic eye, just in case for the future. In the bioferrite shaper, we'll set some nerve spikers to be made, crossbows that have a special ammo that will stun using a poison most creatures it hits, perfect for letting us capture more anomalies reliably, and raiders. Alistair is getting along well with our new guest. Him and Fluocyte are in love. But that'll have to wait. It's time for another Void Provoke. This one knocks Newton out cold, off his feet, but he'll be recovered soon enough. He's in no real danger here. The Void Provocation brought a group of Gore Hulks, a group of monstrous human-like abominations. Their ugly bodies have creatine spikes, which can be launched at a distance. However, these ugly sponges are very weak in melee. With them, we unlock the ability of a bliss lobotomy, rendering people unable to do most labor, but quite happy. We'll use our southern choke point to create tight corners to bait them into nearby combat. Schultz rushes them to prevent them from firing, and the combat shotgun combined with the nerve spiker downs all 3 of them, meaning we get 3 free captures to keep our ghoul company and start pumping out bioferrite and research. Bioferrite production is up to 10 a day from the 2 it was previously, and now we can make disruptor flares whenever we think we need it. It does not take long for the Gore Hulks to decide they don't like their new home and are trying to break out. Luckily we easily knock one out and capture it. No harm, no foul. As raids are getting more intense, we're going to want to build a small armory by our entrance so that we can have all of our armor, ammo, weapons, etc. on standby, and we're not running all the way back to storage when a raid comes and we need an EMP grenade or something. And just right about on cue, we get the warning that mechanoids are going to start showing up soon. In combat extended, that means we need to be really ready with either Molotovs, EMPs, or something with serious armor penetration. Right now we are lacking all of the above. We've separated out all our weapon types, armor, apparel, expendables, and ammo, and this little armory is looking pretty good. Now we're finished up with proximity detectors so we can cover our other flanks, and we're going to work towards skip abduction as another way of getting more colonists. Forgot to accept that quest earlier, so let's accept for the bionic eye, and Togair is here. He'll be with us for 25 days and do nothing, but we can have him fight for us if it comes down to it. Just want to keep his mood high. With all this bioferrite we're making, we can start laying out a bioferrite floor, which is going to seriously bump the containment and hopefully stop escape attempts happening on regular intervals like they are now. While we're doing that, another raid. This is the first one where they're coming in plate armor and weapons from two sides. Luckily this guy, the famous, came by himself, and the combat shotgun pretty quickly puts through that plate armor. And the other two get knocked down by a combination of the mace, nerve spiker, and a little bit of last minute backup from the combat shotgun. Julia's got potential as another fighter for our colony and a dedicated rancher, so we'll try and capture her. But I don't really have the room, so she's going in with the anomalies for now. The downside to these bedrooms being so far away is that everyone's taking their meals with them to sleep and eating without a table. So we will set up this small little dining room here just outside the bedrooms, so we don't constantly get the 8 without table debuff every morning, but they should still be getting the mood bonuses from the major dining and rec room. Paris has been doing so much work with Anamoly recently, along with Newton, that she's begun to have her sanity tested. This is a new need added by Vanilla Expanded Insanity from interacting with all the anomalies and weird events. If this ever gets too low, there's a chance our colonist can break and go either completely inhuman, insane, or even try and kill themselves. For our next quest, we're offered a distress signal interception, a frantic voice begging for assistance from a nearby threat. They offer everything at their camp, including potentially powerful technology, but before we can find anything else out, the signal cuts. It's nearby, but sounds definitely dangerous, so we'll send out only our best fighters and leave the rest to hold down the fort. Erlen, Schultz, Karis, and Asate will head out. When they arrive, things are worse than we thought. The entire colony looks like it's been overtaken by this spongy pink flesh stuff. On moving in to investigate, we can see all the colonists scattered around the area dead. The meat walls are... We can easily start clearing out some of these big areas of flesh, but we are not alone. Flesh beasts, creatures made from the gross stuff, are patrolling around. So we're going to take the fight to them in these narrow hallways, using our tough melee ghoul as a wall for our better shooters to take this thing down. These things are tougher than they look for being entirely made out of twisted meat, and while trying to deal with it, we're ambushed. Holes in the ground pop up, and more flesh beasts come crawling out. So we'll fall back to the sandbags and set up a shooting line with our melee holding. This is becoming a very tactical sort of clearing out of this colony. When we blow them up, however, they split and get right in our back line. Luckily, the split-offs are much weaker than the big tough spikes in the front. One by one, we'll start clearing through the rooms until we come across this big flesh bulb, which we can break with our fist, and out pops a little bit of hyperweave. So it seems that there is actual valuable goods hidden somewhere in this flesh. So we'll keep clearing out the rooms one by one, looking for anything of interest, while filling in the holes to prevent our flanks. It seems the colonists left behind some plasteel, steel, and jade, and one of the flesh bulbs releases a piece of shard. Very valuable for us to start stockpiling for future anomaly stuff. Very nice. Well, this has already been worth it, and we seem pretty safe for now, so we'll start covering up our tracks and the holes in the ground and take the chance to rest and eat up. We do start punching through the rest of the flesh, hoping to find anything, but this proves to not yield any results. So we'll just gather all the goodies we've gotten so far and be on our way. No major injuries sustained is a big bonus, and was not expected. Back at home, on our main entrance, we set up a outer wall just outside our original perimeter to block line of sight and have them come around corners, funneling them even harder. And we'll set up some embrasures, which act as cover with gun holes through them that we can shoot out of while being well protected. Some sandbags in the narrow hallway prevent the raiders from stopping there, meaning they won't get cover either. It's a very basic kill box, but with how lethal combat extended is, we don't need much more for a while. Then it's time to start making a second containment room. Our first one's getting quite full. Once again, building it into the mountain and putting it nearby. Skip abduction is done, meaning we can do a psychic ritual just like where we do our void provokes, and instead this time get a random hostile colonist from anywhere on the map at the cost of just a little bit of bioferrite. This can even be entire faction leaders. Skip abduction doesn't seem to have any rules about who it picks. Unfortunately, depending on how well the ritual goes, they can be in a coma though for up to 30 days. Sometimes though, that's a good thing, as we'll see later. While we're so interested in rituals, we'll get void sculptures. Tiny little sculptures we can put around our ritual to enhance the quality of them. Finally, gunsmithing is done, which means we can not only start making our own guns, but more ammo to supply the ones we already have, because we were definitely running low on buck shotgun shells. So we can make a loading bench inside, and Karis has fallen into a coma. That means she is ready for ghoulification, because we do not have any go juice for her. I wasn't actually looking when Karis became a ghoul, but she is one now, and a mysterious obelisk has crashed nearby. It's humming with psychic energy, intensifying as we get close to it. This is something that we can study, but it's also going to be building up in power, meaning we need a warden to keep it suppressed, because I have a feeling this thing reaching full activation is not something we're going to want to see. It's also worth noting this is our first event of the second tier of the monolith. After getting all the basic anomalies done, we've upgraded the monolith and can start finding much more advanced anomalies, which are going to also be a lot more dangerous, which is why I have reason to fear the obelisk. But hey, there's Karis, ghoulish as ever. We found out the obelisk is actually some sort of cloning device from some architect, yada yada. So if this thing isn't suppressed, it could, my theory being, making a lot of evil clones that we do not want to fight. But study is study, and we can't turn down that opportunity. A grizzly bear decided to try and make Erlen its next meal, so here's a cool chance to show off what the cryomancy can do. The frost ray hits rapidly, giving a bunch of cuts to the grizzly bear in rapid succession, and pretty quickly knocks the beast off its feet. Another successful ritual doesn't get us any new colonists, but it does let us upgrade our ideology. The important thing here is that we are taking supremacist, which means research can be just a little faster, though still slow, and we are not as affected by seeing corpses. We no longer consider them ugly, they're just a fact of life. I think this is a reasonable development considering the amount of corpses and resurrection our colonists have been exposed to so far. It also unlocks us a shooting specialist, but I'll be honest, I forgot about this for the entire run, so this never comes up. Oops. Would have been good to have. People are getting pretty decked out in both the steel plate armor we stole and flew a sight with this big riot shield, meaning we've got some real defenses both on our front line and our shooters now. And Julia tries to go for a prison break, and Karis, following in the steps of Schultz, has her loser head as price. Oh, ghouls, never change. Rituals are ready again, and a successful one gets us Faina. Faina has great passion in shooting and melee, and can help with all the construction and crafting going on, relieving Alistair and Newton of a little bit more of their duties, because they have been quite overworked. But a bad back means she may not be our first choice for the front line. Did mention the obelisk was our first advanced anomaly, but we never actually upgraded the monolith, so let's do that now. I'm not sure how the obelisk came if this wasn't upgraded, but we definitely do want to start getting through these advanced anomalies, and the monolith has changed quite drastically in shape. With it comes a great paw as well, and the monolith continues to twist and grow again. Now we understand. The monolith is a doorway, opened wider by our continuous actions. On the other side there is some inhuman intelligence of vast complexity and endless rage, a dark machine god stirring, its physical influence growing, and now more entities will soon come. With that, we also unlock advanced anomaly research. However, those require advanced anomalies, which we haven't seen any of yet. But we will very soon, as a pit gate is opening up right near our colony, and if the distress signal is anything to go off of, I have a feeling I know what's going to happen to us. And unfortunately, it looks like I'm correct. The pit gate opens and more flesh beasts come pouring out. Try and go through our top entrance to separate and flank them, the ghouls handling up here, and we'll swing back to our spike traps to try and deal with the rest of them. Even with splitting, luckily, these ones all go down pretty quick, which means we may be more prepared than we thought for what's going on inside. And that's the place it brings us next, into the heart of the flesh beast lair. The only way to close this pit gate is to head inside and figure out what's causing it in the first place. In the depths of the pit gate, there's a massive cavern system infested with flesh beast, just like the previous colony we found. It's clogged with massive living flesh that blocks our path, so it means it's time to start punching our way through. We'll spread out and start punching our way through till we find some enemies. One of them drops a Masterwork class steel helmet, which will be a very nice upgrade. One of our breakthroughs leads into an area where flesh beast and insectoids are hanging out. The mega spiders are extremely well armored, so that Zeus hammer from our guest is going to come in real handy. Only Tog sustains any real injuries here, so we're okay to keep pressing on while he heals up. We also stumble across a corpse that we can strip to find a low shield pack. Unfortunately, the charged shotgun is bio-coded, so that's of no use to us. Then it's back to slowly digging away and clearing out Flesh Beast, trying to find the heart of this issue. After a long time digging around, we come across another flesh wall with squirming sounds coming from the other end. Heavy writhing and throbbing indicates to us that the heart of this issue is just beyond these walls. After getting ourselves in position, Schultz breaks through the wall to reveal a dread meld. The massive creature is like the boss of this zone and starts spitting out flesh beast of its own as we attack it. This turns into utter chaos. And with the Dreadmeld dead and all of its spawn still alive, the cave is starting to collapse. We only have 10 hours until this entire place disappears beneath the earth. Schultz is standing well in the front, tanking everything, but even the unnatural regeneration of the ghoul is not enough to save him, and Schultz dies. But all the normal colonists and Karis are okay. With all the flesh beasts down, the Dreadmeld is executed, and luckily yields 30 bioferrite, but more importantly 3 shards. However, upstairs, our weaker colonists seem to have been flanked by some flesh beasts that escaped the tunnels. Luckily, some of them are okay, and while Alistair and Newton go down, Faina is able to at least rescue them and hold the line upstairs while the rest of us pick up our goods and head back up, trying to bring the Dreadmeld along for research. Upstairs, we rush to the rescue of our injured colonist and try and bring the flesh beast to our containment cell. Everyone but Schultz is alive and doing okay. However, on containing the Dreadmeld, we can't tend to it in time, and it splits off again into more flesh beast. So we'll just clear those out and take the tough spike for at least some benefit for research. Additionally, while this is happening, the pit gate collapses for good, leaving Schultz stranded far below the Earth's surface. Rest in peace, school. Rest in peace. And we can breathe a sigh of fresh air. The entire colony is injured, but everyone's alive, and we have some time to recover before the next event. 3 days after the pit gate incident, the Venom group is back for revenge. Between the spike pits and the ray of frost, they all go down pretty easily, quick enough for us to get out of the tox gas they threw before their demise. A Yitikin named Rorsch is outside healing up from the wounds of the raid, so we'll send Karis out to capture him. Yitikin are quite good at animals, and this one can fight okay, so he'll be nice to have around. The next ritual we'll want is psychophagy, able to siphon psychic sensitivity off of some colonists we don't like. It'll leave them psychically dead, but us quite empowered for a long time. And not much happens till it's done. Before we can even pick and do research, however, Alistair and Fluocyte are getting married. Quite the pretty room to have a ceremony like this in, but sure. Congratulations. Okay, let's research chronophagy. It's next in line and lets us siphon years off colonists we don't like to rejuvenate some of our colonists who are getting up there in age, like Erlin. Also in the workshop, we can drop a sleep suppressor, and then it's time for Toggo to go. We'll miss him, as he was invaluable in the pit gate fight, but we do have a bionic eye, which we haven't needed yet, but better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. The obelisk has created a duplicate of Alistair. As of right now, it seems, naked and afraid, but not harmful, so keep him around and see if we can put him to good use. And the duplicate has a crumbling mind. Shouldn't have expected much. In a few days, he won't be able to do any labor, and Alistair is not exactly a fighter either. So, while we have him, we'll put him to use, and we'll set off another Void Provoke, now that everyone's healed and doing relatively stable. Perhaps coincidentally, perhaps not, a mysterious, good-looking stranger has appeared and wants to join our colonist. Eli is a really good shooter, really good social, beautiful, iron-willed, and gives everyone a positive mood buff just for being near him. Surely nothing can go wrong for having him in the colony, so we'll take him on. And I mean, just look at him. Pigskin dripped out like this. Can't say no to a strong arm shooter like that. As a heat wave sits in, usually it wouldn't be too much of an issue. Build some coolers and call it a day. However, only 2 hours later, we're hit by another event of an EMI dynamo. Mechs have landed nearby, and we'll keep our base without power until we go and deal with them by force. So we'll send everyone, because no one's going to survive in this weather. However, as we're getting packed up, another mysterious stranger named Skinjob wants to join, who is really, really good at everything. And with a name like that and skills like that, I'm a lot more suspicious of you than I am Eli. But we'll take you on. Right now we can use all the help we can get, especially those that can fight well. As everyone's leaving, we get a strange pop-up. A strip of fleshy tissue has appeared right where everyone's gathering to leave. The skin is stained gray, and there's metallic particles in it. It must have come off one of us. This means someone in this colony is not who they seem. Now we can start interrogating prisoners to figure out who's lying about who they really are, and eventually more gray flesh will appear that we can analyze to try and trace back a signature via surgery. But I have my suspicions about you, Skinjob. We'll deal with this when we get back. The mechs are a more pressing issue for now. At the actual mech site location, we are severely outclassed. There's a proximity alarm that's going to wake up a Scorcher, multiple centipedes, an Inferno turret, and a plasma turret. So we're not going to fight. The proximity detector just doesn't reach this side of the wall, so we can break through the door, sneak in, and while stuff is waking up, break the dynamo. Except this one centipede, who we keep stuck in the doorway and locked in melee. It takes a lot of shots for this thing to go down, meaning that we were definitely right to not take this as a direct fight. Eventually though, it does go down. We can finish off the dynamo and make a run for the hills while being sniped at by the centipedes. Back at home, some of our prisoners died from the neglect of everyone leaving, but Rorsch is okay, so we'll continue trying to recruit him. Additionally, we can shut down the duplicating obelisk if we so desire, but while we may not want to intentionally provoke it, we can see what other types of clones we can get. Maybe something useful can come out of this. However, I still don't trust you, Skinjob, so you're going first in for interrogations. Gather outside his bedroom door and get ready to take him in for questioning on who he actually is and if there's anything wrong with him. And Alistair's mind has fully crumbled, and he's useless. So we'll just ask him to look at the wall and, you know, dream of the dogs back home. Sorry, Alistair. That's gotta be disturbing to see. But he was a colonist nonetheless, so we'll give him a proper funeral. Now we can start making our own armor, but with combat extended, there is a new armor called composite, which can only be made with Devil Strand, and is around twice as effective, so we'll also start rushing and planting that, as that'll take quite a while before it's ready. And the obelisk has made another duplicate, this time of Newton. Well, nothing's wrong with him off the start, so we'll see what strange affliction he gets next. And look at that sleep suppressor in action. Newton never has to leave until he gets hungry. He'll never get tired as long as he's researching. Well, it'll be a while till we figure out who's behind the grey flesh, so we'll do another Void Provoke to satisfy our curiosity and the lull in current events. Almost immediately, the sky begins to dim. Soon it'll be hard to see anything that isn't directly in lamps or torches. So this is where those flare packs are going to come in handy, as well as all the outdoor lights we built earlier. But an extra disruptor pack and a few more outdoor lights to cover the entire main points of our base. It seems like it's definitely going to be useful. And another piece of grey flesh has appeared. Upon investigating it, Newton comes down with duplicate sickness. So, first things first, the analysis. We've identified the biosample, and soon we'll be able to surgically inspect our colonist to see whose DNA matches. Not yet. And as far as the duplicate sickness goes, Newton and his duplicate are beginning to feel unwell. Their condition seems to be related and worsening over time. If we allow this to keep going, then eventually both of them are going to be rendered at only 10% consciousness, which means another clone has to go. Sorry, Newton. It's not clean and it's not exactly nice, but, you know, at least we give the clones their proper burial. After Karis has a snack. As we begin covering our entire animal pen in outdoor lights to keep anything within our walls out of the darkness, it is almost here. Only direct light will be safe, and we'll set a schedule to keep everyone inside our walls until we know what's going on. As unnatural darkness descends, things begin to move just outside the light. Pillars of jagged, oily metal fall from the sky. They are ugly, but surely contain value. We need to reach them via the light and destroy them to end the eternal darkness. Well, one of them drops right on our lamp and boomalope, so that's nice. And it looks like another one is also in our farm, which is really convenient. There is a third one though, far in the corner of the map and well outside our light. That is going to be the challenge one to get to, and we need all of them if we want to cleanse the darkness. For the first monolith, we drop a few flares just to be extra safe, and gather around to start beating this thing down. As we begin to attack it, creatures from the darkness begin to approach. Inhuman chittering sounds from the inky black. Insect-like noctols attack from the darkness. Luckily they're not nearby, so we have the chance to beat down this first pillar before moving towards our base entrance as the darkness begins to waver. On first glance, the noctol does not appear to be that strong, going down in a duo succession of shotgun shells. The next one also falls easily, and we'll try and capture them for advanced anomaly research. The second pillar in our walls is next, and same as before, we'll gather around, creating a defensive position, and beat down the pillar as noctols attack, this time starting much closer to us than before. So we'll get ourselves into the light and take them down best we can, while avoiding the series of scratches happening for those who wait inside the dark too long. The Nerve Spiker does a good job of protecting Erlen, who's currently stuck in a daze. And then it's time to head outside, using Disruptor Flare Packs to create a path to the final pillar. Working our way slowly through the darkness, we're able to stand in it for a little while, so we can spread out these flares to preserve a little bit of ammo. And as we reach the third pillar, almost immediately Noctul's attack. So we'll spread out and focus on those before the pillar. Even though there are 3 of them this time, they do go down easily with no injuries sustained. And almost immediately, the darkness lifts. Now that we have advanced anomalies to research, I want to work towards ghoul enhancements first, making our already MVPs of the front line even tougher and doing even more damage at the expense of some speed. And not a second too soon, as we're laying down the sterile tiles and walls of a new infirmary, a few of our colonists catch malaria, so we set them to bed rest while everything's going easy enough until they're healed. The mechs before were not happy with us abandoning their fight, so they've come to bring the fight to us. They drop right outside our walls with turrets, flamers, and snipers. However, we have 15 days. Additionally, the colony is having a bit of a food problem, so we send out a scouting team to attack the nearby settlements for plenty of potatoes and whatever other food we can manage to scavenge. As we return back home, an infestation appears in our storage room, which is insane considering there are literally 3 mountain tiles in this area, but sure. We'll get everyone together, set up a gun line, and try and deal with these insects as quickly as possible. Though, this fight is not without losses. Nobody dies, but Faina and Newton are pretty seriously injured, as well as Erlen, who's bleeding quite heavily. So let's just seal up those mountain tiles so we don't have to deal with that again. Not worth it. Moving from bugs onto mechanoids, we'll take who's still capable of fighting and prepare ourselves a flank as best we can. Most of the turrets and creatures cannot actually shoot as long as you are next to them. So we'll pause, set everyone to attack, and see how quickly we can get things done. Karis goes down, but also takes down the Scorcher with it, which is worth it, because the Scorcher shoots breaths of fire that could easily area of effect this entire party down. Newton goes into a daze wandering near the turrets and also gets shot down, but even with Estate and Newton down, that's a better outcome than expected for dealing with mechanoids, so we'll gladly take it and assess our damage. Estate is now missing his stomach, but he'll live, while Newton is missing both his left arm and his left lung. That's going to be a problem for productivity, Newton, but we can fix you. Even with these intense damages to both of them, they do still live and our colonists are able to tend them on a spot and get them to our new infirmary for recovery. A third piece of grey flesh has appeared, and on doing research of it, we are now able to trace the biosignature and perform operations to find who is the imposter among us. Just to be sure, we'll check Newton first. But according to Asate at least, he comes out clean. Then we'll check Skinjob, who's my growing suspicion. But he also comes out clean. Well, there's only one other colonist who joined at the same time, and that's Eli, so we'll check him. As we go to check him, we're ambushed by something inside. A metal horror emerges through his flesh. A nightmarish metal bladed creature cuts its way out of the host Eli and begins to attack our doctor. We were not ready for a fight in this bedroom, so we try and flee, but the creature pretty quickly takes down Asate, and on its way out, eats off Rocher's head too, just as he had joined the colony. What a shame. But Ray of Frost will knock the thing out and give us a shard for our efforts. I'm sorry, Roche. You didn't deserve to die. You got caught up. Something you were not a part of. But we won't forget your sacrifice. Somehow Eli and Asate are both okay though. And you know, I've got more of an attachment to them, so take what we can get. Additionally, this is where I find out Faina lost her leg in the bug fight. At the same time, while studying the monolith, Newton's sanity has run out. He's lost the last connection to who he used to be. His regard for health, family, friendship, and love has been shattered by the exposure to the anomalies and their corrupting force. Now he's entered a period of madness, and he'll come out the other end either in an inhuman frenzy or reformed, but that is much less likely. Sending Eli with his high social out to pawn off our goods, we come across a psycast spell for Haywire, able to turn mechanoid turrets onto our side, so we'll definitely take that, considering they've been the biggest problem so far. At home, the Gore Hulks escape, and actually get it pretty far. But they're no match for the Nerve Spiker shotgun combo. Surprisingly, while tending to the recently escaped Gore Hulks, Newton has emerged from his madness fully sane and cathartic. He has, beyond all odds, fought back the corrupting forces of the anomaly and was not inhumanized, coming out stronger than before. As a leader of our colony, this is a huge precedent of how we handle the anomaly as a power going forward. Well, Skinjob was cleared and we finally converted him to our ideology, so we'll let him go and rejoin the colony. Another mech cluster drops nearby, this time spewing toxins into the atmosphere, killing off all our plants, making it a little dangerous to be outside. So we'll send another full party to go and deal with it, leaving only Newton and Faina behind, and same as before, find our way through a wall on the opposite side and break down the tox spewer without awakening even any mechs this time, as there was no proximity detector, only a countdown. Back at home, an ideology festival brings about a new colonist, Bauer. Bauer is okay at fighting, but has a super big passion for it, and is nimble, so we can train him to be a decent fighter. And all we really need right now, people that can fight in extra pairs of hands. Immediately after, 2 back-to-back successful rituals gets us Bill, who, as we realize is a child. So they'll be set on basically just hauling and cleaning duty, which is nice. We could use some tidying up around here, but we'll make a classroom for him. Don't think this anomaly is going to be lasting that long, but maybe we'll have the opportunity to make him into our perfect colonist. A group of Yitikin also come to attack the colony. This time, dropping in from the sky right into Bauer's bedroom. So we'll leave the door open and start blasting through the choke point that they've set themselves trapped in. And none of them are particularly armored, so they go down pretty easy, while we have to beat out the fire that has now been set in Bauer's bedroom. Rorsch is gone unjustly, so we'll pick Wittet to be our new Itikin rancher. In our workshop, we can drop a serum lab, unique to Anamoly. It allows us to create consumable potions that usually make our colonists stronger with some sort of drawback. Additionally, prosthetics is finished, meaning that we can start repairing some of the damages caused by the insects and mechs. And while recovering from their sicknesses, Bena and Asate, sharing 2 beds together in the infirmary, have decided to get married. What a cute little way for them to fall in love. While they're still recovering from their sickness, a group of twisted animal-like chimeras have appeared nearby. The misshapen beast, for now, are just lurking around, waiting for a good time to strike. And in the serum lab, we're able to produce a ghoul resurrection serum. So, if we find Karis and inject it into her, she will come back in a stasis for a few hours, but pretty much fully healed. Additionally, Erilyn has gained another psi level, so we'll take Mend so that she can repair all of the way better gear than we can make that we've found through raids. And at this point, the chimeras have decided to attack. Luckily, they are not the smartest creatures and have simply funneled themselves into our main entrance, now filled with barbed wire. And with the chimeras dealt with, and the grey flesh found, we can safely void provoke. And with it, a second obelisk has appeared, putrid psychic energy. And this one lands right in the middle of our farm as well, so we'll send it to be studied and also suppressed so it doesn't activate. In the research department, we've got gun turrets now, so we'll shore up our defenses at the front. Additionally, we'll do our first skip abduction ritual to get someone as a test subject for our other, more intense rituals. This one is called Fate, an Impid, who is actually the leader of the Party of Dominance. So, pretty good. We'll capture them and use them as a subject for rituals later. Additionally, besides rituals, they will also be offering one of their lungs to fix Newtons, though we can't take their stomach for a sate. The new obelisk seems to interact with creatures nearby, corrupting them into fleshy versions of themselves. However, how it actually works, we're unsure as of now. With philophagy done, we can take captured colonists and steal their best skill and give it to our ritualist. But first, we'll take our new prisoner and transfer some of his age to Erilyn using chronophagy. Now Erlyn has gone from 53 to 38, while our prisoner is 72 years. And this does actually cure one of her bite scars, so pretty nice. On the road, Eli managed to trade most of our spare goods away for a pretty decent quality plasma sword, so a melee weapon actually capable of dealing with the high armor targets. And the west side spike traps are not really cutting it, so we'll make an identical sort of funnel entrance kill box to our southern. And another void provoke out of the way. We'll start upping our containment with security doors. However, as we are doing so, drops of thick blood-like fluid have begun falling from the sky. People exposed to the blood rain will grow angry and go into berserk rages. This will also affect our farm animals, which is cause of great concern to us at the moment, as there are literally dozens of muffalos and boomlopes out there. We'll start building a wall to try and protect ourselves, but unfortunately the blood rain acts way faster. And the animals start going into a rage, attacking our colonist. This very quickly escalates into a firefight mess, and we have to be proactive in culling all the animals that we've spent the last 2 years building up. So I'll just let the chaos speak for itself for a minute. And just look at that feed of dead animals. Oh, the misery. And Bao is the first to go into a blood rage, because it does affect our colonists too. So when he goes to attack Eli in the freezer, he is pretty quickly dealt with by Karis. And goes down safely for now. So we'll send everyone into the infirmary who's injured, and the rest of us will hang out in the rec room until the blood rain passes. A few people got infected from the fight outdoors, so we'll tend to that while the blood rain clears. Mending requires quite a high psychic sensitivity to repair anything of real value, so we'll exploit our captive once again and basically leave him psychically dull while greatly increasing our psi sensitivity for several dozen days. Chimeras are back to attack, this time on the not finished construction of the northern security, but in this case, pretty much all of them die before any real damage is done, and Karis lives through this encounter. At the other end of the map, Fluocyte's interacting with a obelisk, which has created a angry duplicate of himself. The nice thing about this one is you can try and capture them. However, the plasma sword kills any dream of that, and I almost missed Asate and Fena getting married in the dark during a solar flare in the quite hot sanctum, but people seem to be having a good time. And the power's back. So what's the worst that can happen? Another void provoke? And while we're at it, another raid from the Venom group. But with the combination of turrets and the ray of frost, they don't get very far before deciding to run for the hills. And with it, the Yitakin, who dropship from the sky on us, has decided to join as well. So he'll be in charge of animal ranching. And we've got a crematorium up, so we can start getting rid of all these corpses in fear that they may resurrect yet again. Security doors in the containment cells bump up containment from 90 all the way to 186, meaning we should be having a lot less entity escapes and can afford to plop down an electro harvester, siphoning some of that containment in exchange for power, which, with only wind and a long time to go until geothermals, is becoming an issue, so we'll drop some solar panels as well. More progress on studying the mutating obelisk. It seems to be able to transform flesh into different forms, but the obelisk is damaged, so the forms are unstable. It could turn into something that we don't even recognize anymore. So now we can start manual mutations. However, we have our fill of Anamoly, as shortly after, small circles of terrain begin to shift and crack apart. Another Anamoly digging up from beneath the ground towards us, but this one not the same as before. Instead, what pops out is a flesh mass heart. So, the flesh has decided to stop staying underground and bring the fight to us. The creature is like a tumor, expanding its living flesh across our surface. The heart itself is invulnerable, so we'll need to break and study nerve bundles to figure out a way to deactivate it. And quite rapidly, the flesh begins to expand across the outside of our base. Additionally, it comes with flesh mass spitters, big acidic artillery that can bombard us. So we punch through the flesh and take down the artillery and work our way to the first neural lump. On analyzing it, we figure out some stuff, but need much more data. So we'll begin combing through the flesh mass creatures while waiting for more nerve bundles to spawn. As we keep breaking through to head to the neural lumps, the flesh mass reacts and starts spawning more in retaliation. So we keep a close circle and try covering each other's corners and blasting away. But some people do fall, and we pull back to recover. By the time we're ready to go again, another nerve bundle has appeared, and the flesh has spread even further than before. So we'll head out and set up a defense line, once again dealing with the artillery first, while covering our back flank. and then working our way to the second and third nerve bundle, which have decided to spawn close together, right by the core. The plasma sword makes short work of digging our way through, while the rest of our colonists hold the rear, the only direction more flesh can come from. As we begin to push in, analyzing the neurals and dealing with the artillery that keeps spawning, we have finished tracing the issue and made a breakthrough. The biosignature responds strongly when simulated. The biosignature responds strongly when stimulated by a specific electrical pulse. We can use it on the heart itself, pushing an overload and killing the heart via massive simulated heart attack. So that's what we'll do. As Newton goes to kill the flesh mass heart, many more creatures spawn as we hold our line through the hole we made. When the creature is dead, it drops a flesh mass nucleus. It's less dangerous, though still active core, as well as tons of twisted meat, edible only by the ghouls. The nucleus is capturable, so we'll set out to do that, while the rest of the colonists create a defensive line, as there is still flesh beasts out there. Most of the living flesh is beginning to decay at this point, leaving only the creatures out there and us in here to recover. The nucleus is able to be studied for advanced research, and also spits out twisted meat every time it does so. That means we can sustain all of our ghouls without having to worry about sending them out for meat, or keeping a high animal ranch going. This thing can keep all our ghouls going for as long as we want. It seems nearby cultists have heard about all the weird stuff going on, and have begun to chant outside our walls, forcing a psychic rage if we allow them to. However, they are pretty unarmed and unarmored, so we take the fight to them and pretty easily deal with most of them before they can even retaliate. And were rewarded as they drop a shard that they brought with them. Outdoors, Bauer got caught by the flesh beast that was still roaming, so we go on a quick rescue mission for him. But fortunately, we can't reach him in time. So, due to our own negligence and Bauer's stupidity of not paying attention, then he dies. But we don't have time to focus on that. With our newly decorated ritual, we'll provoke the void again. And this time, shamblers start coming, trying to dig their way through our walls to destroy our base. Luckily, another choke point, this time with our colonists staying in the front, is enough to deal with these pretty weak shamblers, but that doesn't seem to be what the Void Provoke was. Instead, a Nachiosphere has appeared inside our base, a strange metallic sphere that hurts to be near. Doesn't seem to be aggressive to us, so we'll just capture it and figure out what we can do with it later. At this point, we've found enough anomalies and done enough research that we can fully awaken the monolith and end this experience if we want to. However, our colonists are not ready, and there are still more anomalies to see, so we'll press on. And just look at Newton roll his massive, oversized bowling ball into the containment room. Skinjob, on studying the bowling ball, has found its only purpose is to inflict pain. There may be a way to weaponize this, but more studies needed. And at this point, our captive is psychically dead, missing most of their organs, and will never join us. So we'll do a quick execution to keep Eli happy, since we haven't been able to convert him. A lot of times we have to send our entire colonists out to deal with problems, leaving our flanks exposed. So throughout the base, we'll build these little sandbag rings with turrets inside to supplement our defenses in areas that we may not currently be. Friendly fire is an issue though, so we'll have to micromanage those when we are closer. And at this point, Bill has a chance for a growth and becomes intellectual and psychically hypersensitive, capable of being quite a powerful caster, should he reach the age. And at this point, we have enough bioferrite to start making all of our upgrades to our ghouls that we talked about before. Adrenal hearts to give them activatable burst of speed and damage, plates to increase their armor at the expense of speed, and barbs to increase their damage, again at the expense of speed. And with that, another Void Provoke. Just in time, the Nachiosphere study is complete. It's beginning to become unstable. Once it reaches full instability, nothing can stop its onslaught. But before then, we can turn it on something, and assuming it's satisfied, we'll leave permanently. At this point, our proximity detector at our southern entrance goes off, so Asate stands ready to attack whatever may come as he's the closest nearby. And at this point, a Revenant appears, and it begins to hunt Asate. We do have a few colonists by to try and help him, but the Revenant seems to be doing something to Asate before fleeing. He's gravely injured, but we can't catch him, and Asate is now hypnotized, rambling incoherently, with nightmares of images and ideas. The only way to end this is killing the Revenant. Its psychic powers twist the perceptions of those around it, making it invisible. So the only way to hunt it is by following the black smears it leaves behind, or going off our proximity detectors, or hitting it with our flare disruptors. But this time, it's escaped, and Asate is rendered useless until it appears again. Luckily, Asate is fine, so he'll just rest in the infirmary until we can find the Revenant. We were able to analyze some of the flesh it left behind, making it easier to track in the future. In the crossfire between the turrets and the colonist, Asate managed to lose his left eye. Luckily, we got that bionic eye long time ago, and it's finally come in handy. Another proximity detector alarm, and we're expected to be dealing with the Revenant, so we send everyone we can to gang up on it. However, unfortunately, it is just a single sight stealer, which goes down much easier, even though the turret decides to do some friendly fire. However, it doesn't seem to be the last of them. When it dies, we hear sight stealers shrieking in the distance. We don't know how many or where they are, but they are coming. And here comes another one. Two of them trying to attack Karis, but the turrets deal with them pretty much instantly. See, they're not completely useless. Look at that. The other turret takes down a third one. And this time, the Revenant's here, going after Newton. But Erlin's on standby with a disruptor flare, and quickly stuns it. With the help of the rest of the colony, the Revenant goes down, dropping behind its spine as a reward, which we can capture. When we capture the Revenant's spine, it reforms in its containment cell as a Revenant again, meaning we have to be worried about it escaping in the future. Another Sight Stealer ambushes Karis while he's out hunting, and a second one follows shortly after, which we try and hunt down. More appear at each of the entrances. They're beginning to swarm us now. But the turrets placed around help supplement this and keep everyone safe enough. With the Revenant and the Sight Stealers dealt with, it's time for another Void Provoke. And immediately after, a strange corpse appears. Identical to Fena, it is unnatural, waxy and warm to the touch. It teleports following Fena around, and all we can do now is study it and try and figure out why or what it is. As we study the corpse, it seems an Architect shard is linking it with Fena. Anytime we destroy it, it'll rebuild and teleport to be near her. There may be a way to destroy it and get the shard, but we just don't know yet. In the infirmary, we can begin decking out our ghouls, giving Karis the Adrenal Heart. This gives her the ability to go into a frenzy, getting increasingly fast and doing more damage once every few hours, which is a really low cooldown for how often we use them. The Devil Strand is also done, meaning we can start decking out our combative colonist in the best armor of this era. Now Karis has barbs too, and soon we'll be having plating, so at the expense of speed, her armor and melee damage are significantly higher. The mutation obelisk has activated by accident, replacing Skinjob's stomach with that of a flesh mass one. It's painful, but she won't have any food poisoning, which is fine. It would have been nice if it happened to a Sate, but risking the chance to do it on purpose seems like it could go very wrong very quickly. Oh, another Void Provoke down. And Devourers have appeared. Huge gaped mawed monsters attacking. The large worms come from the east. We stand ready to gun them down, but they leap quickly, devouring a Sate, and we're forced to focus our attention on keeping him protected, as another one grabs Newton. And then a third one grabs Eli. Between the turrets and all the gunfire, we're able to free any of them before they can be digested. For the third time, a mech cluster has appeared nearby, trying to screw us over, this time by blocking out the sun. This one's not as important to deal with immediately, but these mechs know the deal. We sneak in where they're not looking. Destroy their device and get out, getting some plasteel and components for our efforts. Back at home, it's another infestation, this time in the containment room. Oh joy. That can't possibly go wrong. Well, only one of the holding platforms breaks, sending the tough spike free, and the security doors manage to contain the threat, until we're able to fully get in. A lot of our colonists already have their composite and flak armor, so we're pretty well protected here against their attacks. So on our terms, we open the security door, sending Karis in first, and form a strong gun line, able to deal with the entire threat before incurring any injuries. However, all the insect bodies keep the security door open, so the Revenant and Gorehulk escape. The Gorehulk's easy to deal with, but we are not in position to catch the Revenant, and it disappears. Erlen goes on the hunt for it. Sending out flare packs where she sees the trails, and does manage to catch it in a stun, firing at it multiple times. However, as the creature tries to escape, it walks back into the turrets, and falls dead this time. This seems like a problem to keep captured, so we're just going to destroy it instead, and take a shard. Feyna seems to not be very happy with the duplicate corpse of her always following her, and sets it on display on the kitchen table for everyone to see. Luckily, we're supremacist, and this isn't our first time dealing with duplicated corpses, so people don't seem to mind, though I don't know if I would be eating off of it. However, something must have went right, because a breakthrough has happened, and we figured out a way to destroy it while doing so. So we'll set Newton to do that, and get a shard as reward, also keeping Feyna's sanity in check. Time for another Void Provoke, and this time, a strange cube has landed nearby, shining like gold, impossible to scratch, light, and warm to the touch. The way the light plays across its surface is captivating. Newton is drawn to the cube. The cube is perfect. The cube is home. The cube is us. So we'll make a shelf just for it in the rec room, and set it on display, and put all of Newton's focus on studying it. At this point, the Nociosphere is getting very unstable, and is going to turn against us soon, unless a sufficient raid comes to quell its thirst. Well, those merchants are right nearby, and we can't guarantee any other raids in the next 10 days. So, while Newton's dwindling in his cube obsession, creating sculptures to it, we're going to send out the Nociosphere to deal with the merchants as they leave, and see what sort of goodies they leave behind. And we don't take any blame for this. It's not our colony doing it. The sphere's got a mind of its own. So just sit back and watch the fireworks. Well, that seemed to satisfy it enough. It's disappeared, never to be seen again, and we've got plenty of goodies left behind for us to take. Newton's obsession with the cube is growing, and he keeps making statues to commemorate it. Unfortunately, he's not the most artsy, so they're not great, but we'll put him in the dining room. This is the cube room now. I mean, it's already perfectly square. Spending so much time studying it, we've realized it's able to psychically influence those who interact with it. If we stay away from the cube for too long, we'll go into withdrawal. Luckily, we would never leave the cube behind. A lot of these threats seem to appear outside our colony and attack, So we'll set aside an area for a mortar and some ammo, considering we got a bunch of it for free from the merchants. This time Whittet was studying the mutation obelisk when it activated. However, instead of targeting him, it managed to target one of the trees nearby, turning it into a harbinger tree. Not particularly useful, but neat. And at this point, there's only one anomaly left undiscovered, so it's time to provoke, and it's a third obelisk. This one is outside our base, and we don't really know what it does yet. While Newton's busy with the cube, Fluocyte goes out to study it, and begins to notice activity. Some mechanism has come to life, and Fluocyte is slowly disappearing. Soon she'll vanish entirely, and there's nothing we can do but watch. When she reappears, she is in a grey room, unidentifiable from the world around her. The air is dead still. We don't know where we are or how to get home, but there are plenty of doors around for us to push our way through. So we'll begin jamming our way through these stuck doors. Meanwhile, at home, the Noctals try and escape. Their rebellion is pretty quickly quelled. After the Noctals, we're back to Fluocyte, who's entered a room full of corpses that we'll try pushing our way through. However, we keep getting distracted, as this time the Covenant of Fools is back to attack, this time with a lot more Neanderthals than before. Before we go too far, Fluocyte can strip all of these dead bodies and come across some good loot, including a few charged weapons, some ammo, some armor, and even a exoskeleton that will vastly increase the weight and bulk that she can carry, as well as her move speed. Back in the real world, the Neanderthals are not much of an issue, and funnel in one by one just to get mowed down. Looking back at Fluocyte, she seems to have teleported again, thanks to the weird statue, and has to keep breaking through new doors now, trying to find a way out. So one by one, we're clearing through, opening up the storage containers as we go, getting some books and other goodies along the way. We also come across a endless pit. Unsure if this is meant to be anything, but we don't seem to be able to interact with it, so we'll move on and hope we don't fall in. This room away from the endless pit seems relatively safe, and Fluocyte's getting tired, so we'll sleep and keep pushing through in the morning. An entire room full of chests. This really has some goodies. Nope, just skulls. However, this room is of much more interest. 2 more chests, a husky, and another obelisk. This one seems to be able to take us home, back where we came from. So we'll investigate the boxes, getting a shard and some mind numb serum, and check the few doors ahead just to make sure we're not missing anything. But it looks like it's mostly more labyrinth, so we'll return. At this point, all the anomalies are completed, besides the cube, and we're getting ready for our defenses of whatever's to come when the monolith fully activates. We'll make an anti-material rifle to deal with anything with too high of an armor, and Newton will keep studying the cube, certain to find something interesting about it before this is all over. With Newton, another obsession means another statue, and at the same time, the obelisk has mutated an animal outside into a flesh beast, which we'll go and deal with before it can catch anyone else off guard outside. Time for more statues. I'm surprised the obsession has not been given to anyone else, considering we're putting all of this stuff right on display in the center. Well, Newton seems to like the cube, so no point worrying about it. So, we're going to awaken the monolith, engulfing the colony in darkness for days and attracting powerful entities. We're stockpiled on food, building, weapons, ammo, flare packs, power, and our security is up to stuff. So, let's do it. The sky darkens and malevolent hum fills the air. The monolith begins to awaken. We've attracted the attention of something beyond human understanding. Structures of the void will begin manifesting in this reality. Activate the arriving void structures to fully awaken the monolith. The first wave is almost here. Several twisted structures are appearing, seemingly from nowhere. They pulse with a dark psychic energy, which wilts nearby plant life. The first one appears right by our ritual, and brings with it several metal horrors. Luckily, we're already nearby, and the turrets have good crossfire. So we're able to deal with them, though we do take quite a bit of damage, both from friendly fire and the metal horrors. Outside, the metal horrors have already attacked our turrets and broken them, so we have to rely on the old spike pit trap, which, surprisingly against demons made of literal metal, is quite effective. On the south end, we're flanked by Flesh Beast. And the turrets tear them apart before they can inflict any damage there. Newton has activated the first of the structures, and more entities have appeared to attack. From all sides, Devourers, Gore Hulks, more Devourers and Gore Hulks, and Flesh Beast appear to attack our colony. This is just the beginning. On the east end, the ghoul takes care of the small ones, while the sniper and anti-material rifle clear out the tougher Flesh Beast. A Devourer catches us by surprise while dealing with Gore Hulks and each Eli. Having only the anti-material rifle able to pierce the flesh of the Devourer, we're not able to fire off and do enough damage, and Eli dies in the fight. Shortly after, though, the Devourer falls, so the rest of us are safe. Similar to Bauer, Bill is somehow outside in this time and gets caught dying to the Flesh Beast roaming out there. I'll be honest, I don't know how this happened, and I'm pretty upset. So, whatever, Bill. You did this to yourself. The rest of us who are healthy will head out to the second structure and form a shooting defensive line while we begin to study it. As we do activate it, the sky around us begins to dim. Similar to the last time, being caught outside the light will be very dangerous, and more entities are swarming to attack. As more Devourers and Gore Hulks spawn, pit holes have also opened up around our colony that we'll need to fill if we don't want to be ambushed by Flesh Beast at most inconvenient times. We're going to make sure we have plenty of guns ready for Devourers this time, and are able to deal with this one before Wittet can be fully dissolved and eaten. Noctils are pretty weak, so with the help of Fena's SMG, Karis is basically able to solo this creature. and with their frenzy giving them crazy speed, we can actually send her out on her own to deal with the squishy gore hulks, because right now they're just roaming around, waiting for a chance to strike, so we don't want to let them when we're not paying attention. Fluocyte gets caught out, but is much more well armored, so we can do the same thing at the bottom, sending Thethaven, one of the prisoners that we captured and turned into a ghoul, off to deal with the southern gore hulks. At this point, the unnatural darkness has begun to set in. Most of our base is entirely well lit, so we're safe in here, but the outside is just as dangerous as it was before. And all three structures appear outside our base on the southern edge of the darkness, so we'll gather everyone we can and get ready to form a line of flares out to the first one. The anti-material and sniper rifle keep our flanks pretty safe from most threats before we can even see them. Newton's beginning to activate while the rest hold the line. With the first obelisk activated, we can start heading east to the second one, but it has caused many more noctals to appear in the darkness. Feyna is doing pretty rough. Her bad back and prosthetic leg makes she moves really slow. As we're moving forward, more sight stealers appear and try and ambush us. Feyna tries to push through the darkness, however is too slow to escape and goes down inside the darkness, which means we have to rescue her. Burning an extra flare and sending someone back to recover her, we'll begin working on the second of the structures. Pretty quickly it activates and we're on our way to the third, just nearby. We're at the third before any creatures attack us. And the Noctals and Sight Stealers all go down quite easy to our gunfire. And with that, the third structure activates. The space around the void monolith has begun to shimmer. That means our duty is done here and we can start heading back. Feyna, in her desperation, tried crawling back to her home and is just running out into the darkness. Don't think she's aware that will kill her, so we have to come rescue her, also while being attacked by entities from all sides. Sight Stealers reveal themselves in the flares as we begin pushing to try and keep Feyna alive, holding out in the darkness before the flares dissipate. We begin shooting out to all the entities and slowly forming a flare back. A Devourer leaps out of the darkness to attack Karis, but there's enough gunfire nearby to mean that we are not caught dead here. Picking up Feyna, we're back, safe in the light of our own home, though there are a few Gore Hulks and Flesh Beast around that managed to take out most of our turrets, so we'll clean those up while we tend to our injured. This place is starting to really look like a battlefield, and the monolith is still pulsing over there. At this point, its shape has begun to distort and shift with growing intensity. Something is about to happen. We're expecting the worst, so we send our colonists nearby, and a massive portal appears above the monolith, a swirling dark vortex sitting atop its peak, forming a conduit to the void. We'll head to the monolith and use it to pass through the other side. Doing so can end this darkness and end the horrors assaulting us. There's only one person for the task. Newton, our leader, who had his sanity fully broken and came out the other side stronger than before, ventures onto the other side of the monolith. As he's teleported, he arrives at a sphere of writhing psychic energy that rises before him. We feel a presence inside, deeper than any normal human sense. We stand on the brink of an infinite black ocean of power, as it beckons us to wade into its seas. Nearby architect devices support the sphere with fragile connections. We can easily disrupt them, closing this link between worlds, or we can step into the sphere, merging with the void, and it's unknown what sort of dark power could be gained from doing something so inhuman. However, throughout this playthrough, Newton's sanity was pushed, tested multiple times. He was weak, but our leader stayed strong, stayed human, and stayed sane through this entire thing. So we won't be embracing the void. We'll be putting an end to the horror that sent us down to this planet, that brought us here, and that did all these tragedies to us. No more will the anomaly be allowed here. With the link disrupted, the psychic flows destabilize and the twisted machinery screams. The swirling void flickers. Newton feels it shuddering and collapsing into itself. The metallic cavern begins to twist, reshaping like the chamber of a massive heart. Before Newton has a chance to scream, he blinks out of existence. Newton has rejected the void, the monolith is destroyed, and all the anomalies have dropped dead, no longer to attack our colonist. And with that, we're finished. Newton does return to his colony and is able to destroy the cube, the last trace of the anomaly's presence, clearing himself of his obsession. But our goals are achieved here. Now we can live in peace, free from the horrors. And as we just look around the colony, wanted to say thank you if you stuck with this video this far. This is a massive project undertaking, and this playthrough is genuinely one of the best that I've had in my hundreds of hours in this game. This DLC is very curated and not for everyone, but for me, oh man, this just hits perfectly. So if you enjoyed, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and comment. Tell me if you like these longer form videos or if you want the more condensed ones, and I'd be excited to do more Rimworld stuff in the future. Thanks.